Let's open up in prayer. Thank you, Father, for this wonderful opportunity to come to you and discuss this Yom Kippur that we're entering in the Shemitah here within the Parashah Azinu. That means to hear. Father, help us to hear and to listen to your voice and reveal to us the things that you need us to know for this time that we're entering and prepare for your coming. I ask it all in the mighty name of Yeshua Mashiach. Amen. So as I said last week, this is a very special year because of the Shemitah here. Also a very special time because of the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, overlaid with this week's Torah portion, which makes it even more special, which is about the Song of Moses. Now, I'm just going to skip to the index. So the Song of Moses, or this Torah portion, you can see there's Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 30, up to 48. So it's a very small portion. And the majority of this Torah portion is about the Song of Moses. Now, previously, I've analyzed the Song of Moses, and there's a lot of good insights in there. But I think overlaying it with Yom Kippur actually gave it a bit more depth in relation to the time frame we're in relation to the prophetic time frame we're in, and also continuing the theme that we're in, that we followed through a couple of Torah portions up till now. So as per normal, it's 100% in sync. And I'm going to make the statement again, which I made last time. The Torah is our roadmap every week, what we need to do and know for the next week. This is the key. It's the Torah portions. And Yahweh will reveal to us every week what we need to know the following week. We're not studying different random topics or whatever. We stick to the Torah portion. It has been proven, and we're just going to follow that. And I think that's a hidden gem that Yahweh's given us. So I hope that other people get into the same habit of doing this, because this is the way Yahweh is speaking to us today. Real time, without doubt. All right, so the juicy topics that I'm going to touch on, we're going to ask a question. Is Yahweh the God of grace, or the God that's angry, the God of war, the God of righteousness and judgment?
Yes.
Or is he both?
All of the above?
All of the above. But I want to emphasize, if you can pick one, which one will you pick? The God of grace on the one side, and the God of anger, war, righteousness and judgment on the other side. Which one will you lean towards? I know there's a little bit of everything in there, but if you want to pick one, which one will you pick?
Well, it has to be grace. Grace is the foundation for everything that he does.
That's it. And I'm going to highlight this even further to make it more difficult. And I'll ask you the question again after I'm saying what I'm saying. We're going to look at this Torah portion in relation to the book of Revelation that actually link to the Song of Moses. That's how we're going to stumble into Revelation, which is chapter 13 and 14. And in there is the theme of judgment, that people will be continually tormented and tortured with brimstone and fire. Is God a God of grace, anger, war, judgment in the context of what I just said there? What do you think? Because surely if they burn forever, they're tortured, where's their grace? Okay? Yes, it's righteousness. Yes, it's judgment. Yes, he's angry. And I think they deserve it. But where's the grace?
Wrong translation, maybe?
Now we'll get to it. Don't jump to it. So this is the questions we would like to answer, because these were the questions I had to ask myself. Because when I read these things, there was red lights, contradictory things happening in my mind. Because I've been going through the Torah, and as you know, I test everything with the patterns and confirm, and when it confirms again, it's getting stronger. So I've got a very strong foundation that I feel personally about Yahweh's grace. Everything he does, he always stand on the foundation of grace. Doesn't matter what. And if you lean towards the other side, you might get a wrong perception of his character. And I was challenged by that, because when I read in Revelation, blatantly, black and white, this is what it said. I said, but that now contradicts my pattern, what I think of what Yahweh's character is and what I found specifically this year. So I had to go and dig a bit deeper to try and not go crazy. So that's where we're going to end up in today, which I think...
But it's interesting that this year, that Yom Kippur is on Shabbat. One is the day of rest and the other one is a wrestling, It's got that same conflict.
Yeah, there's a contradictory conflict of, happening inside, on the inside. Yeah, so let's jump into it and let's see where we end up. Just quick jump back on where we're at time frame wise regarding the fall festival. So I just highlight trumpets there. I've got the 8th, just the last bit of the 8th, which is the sign there, the 8th, new moon. You see the sign in the evening, then the next day is the day. So we saw the sliver on the 8th, so the 9th is trumpets. Then today, the 18th, last night was number 10, 10th of Tishri, based on the starting point of the Yom Teruah, which is the first day. So the evening of the 17th and the day of the 18th is Yom Kippur. So that's where we're at now. And then we're going to go into the full moon. So the evening of the 22nd will signal the starting point of Sukkot. The first day of Sukkot is actually the 23rd, the day, but it starts sunset at 22nd. It will go through to the 29th, which is day 7. And the evening of the 29th will start the evening of the great day, the 8th day, which is the 30th. So Sukkot is a 7-day feast with the great day. Some people think it's an 8-day feast. No, it's not. It's a 7-day feast. The great day is a festival on its own. It's connected to. And we're going to see why I'm saying that at the end of the study.
Just on that point, so you are moving out before Sukkot, start of Sukkot. So we will have the first day of Sukkot here at our place.
No,
Okay.
yeah, we'll probably be moving out on the 29th.
Yeah, we'll discuss this after.
No, we settle on the 27th.
Damn, won't be able to make it.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get the logistics sorted after. All right, so I'll just bring this one up again. This is one we looked at, trying to dissect what's going on with Shavuot. And Shavuot, what we discussed and discovered was there's a lot of events that's happening from first fruits right up to the receiving of the 2 tablets. And then there's a time period where the second set of tablets was received as well, and we lost count because it's not enough information in the Torah to do the count. But roughly, if you do the math, you can end up at the first of the 7th month, which might be quite possible for the receiving of the second set of tablets. And that basically implies that Shavuot connects the spring festivals with the fall festivals. And Shavuot is not a single event. It's a season that ranges from the Feast of First Fruits that sits in the first month, and it ranges right over to the 7th festival, the starting of Yom Teruah. And Shavuot is in between those two. That range from month 1 up to the end of month 6. Just look at the pictures. That's the 6th month, that's the 7th. So we're there now. First fruits is there. There's Omer 1. So Shavuot is all the way around up to trumpets. It's a season. It's and the reason I'm saying that, because first fruits is the only festival that doesn't have a date. You have to start counting. Shavuot doesn't have a specific date. You have to count. And every different count has got a different theme. And something different happened on those days. Of which one of the counts, they arrived at the mountain. The next one God spoke. Then later on, they received the tablets. Then Moses broke it. And then later on, they received the new set of tablets. And the reason I connect the last one, receiving the new tablets, with Yom Teruah, because that's signal in the coming of Mashiach. And it says that Mashiach will teach the Torah from the mountain. And he is the living Torah. So he is the renewed tablets speaking from the mountain. That's why it connects to Yom Teruah prophetically. It fits. That's why,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Okay, so linking first Shavuot to the, I know we did this months ago, but this may help me visualize this.
Yeah.
Linking it to Moses getting the second lot of tablets. How many days is that?
I didn't count it. Let me think. I think it's 165 days.
Which would link that to Yom Teruah
Yes.
on the calendar.
And the reason I know it's 165 days because I've got a slide here to calculate from a Passover to a trumpet what's the amount of days. And we know at day 103, he got the first set. Then he went into the tent, he interceded, he spent time with Yahweh. And Yahweh said, go up again, get the tablets, I will go and write. Then he spent another 40 days on the mountain. So this was a rough period of 2-3 weeks. And then he spent another 40 days, and that will take you right up to the end of the 6th month.
Yep.
Which make the 7th, the beginning of the 7th, the most logical thing that links in prophetically.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that links with this is counting the days to be able to pick up manna. Manna is spiritual food. The thing about Yom of Shavuot is picking up manna, which is basically linking us back to the Torah. Every week we're picking up manna. We never stop.
Yes.
We will keep on doing this until Mashiach appears again. And that's what Yom Teruah is about. We will not stop going through the phase of Shavuot, which is linked to the Torah cycle and the weekly Sabbath
So
gatherings.
what you're saying is we are living Shavuot.
Shavuot is a weekly thing. And every Shavuot theme is a Torah portion theme, where you pick up the manna for that week. Then you move to the next one, you pick up a bit more manna. We'll keep on doing that until Mashiach appears the second time. Shavuot will never end until Mashiach comes the second time. And we're going to look at the same pattern at the end using Sukkot in the same way. And then you'll see why it makes sense prophetically. But I'm going to leave that one for last. This is just to recap where we are with Yom Teruah. I'm not going to go into that. That's just for people if they want to read that. This was our constellation, Job 9:9. Arcturus, Orion, Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. I'm going to refer back to this. These are basically the 3-star constellations connected to the chambers of the south, which give us the prophetic connection between the two realms. Remember I said the 7th millennium is the great eclipse. That's where the spiritual and the physical totally overlap. That's where you see all these supernatural things happening. And Arcturus is the great bear that's linked to the northern star. North is linked to the kingdom of the north. The kingdom of Yahweh, chambers of the south, is linked to Egypt and the physical world and the principalities and kingdoms of this world and the kingdom of darkness. And in the middle, we have Orion. That's got the symbol of the warrior and the reaper, which is also referred to as the judge. We're going to specifically look at the reaping today and the concept of the harvest. And there are 3 harvests that we're going to look at. That's in Revelation. And in the midst of that, we see Pleiades. Now, Pleiades is the 7 stars, which are the 7 churches, which refer to the 7 menorahs. And the lampstands that might be taken out of those who lose their oil. Who don't have oil, your lampstand will be removed from you there will be darkness. No one will come running to you and ask you anything about Yahweh because you've got zero light. You look just like the world in the darkness. If you don't stand up, you have no light. If you comply with everything the world of darkness is doing, your lampstand is gone already because you've got darkness in your midst. Don't do that. So that's the 7 stars, the 7 churches, and the 7 churches collectively in Revelation 2 and chapter 3 is basically the dividing up of the body of Messiah and the different states the body is currently in. There's one who's been persecuted, who only got accommodation from Yahweh. And the one that's the last one, which is the greatest one, is the one that's been vomited out because they're lukewarm. They compromise. They don't have a flame, or they got maybe one flame burning, maybe 2 other lots dead. They don't have all things burning in their midst. So that's a warning to the body of Messiah, because we are now in between the 2 kingdoms that's slowly coming together, and we're feeling the heat, we're feeling the tension, because these realms are already starting to overlap. And there's the great bear connecting to the north kingdom and the overlap of the 2. For those who want to go back and read about it, I'm not going to go in there. And this was our last one we looked at last week, which connects trumpets in 2017 and the connection to what's happening now, and that we are on the 5th trumpets since that first trumpet. And what will our 7th Feast of Trumpets look like? And will there be another 7 trumpets coming? So in the book of Revelation, or actually in the book of Daniel, I think it's chapter 12, verse 27, it referred to the midst of the week, which is basically a 7-year cycle in half. We also know that when you overlay that with the picture of Joseph interpreting the dream of Pharaoh, there were 2 7-year cycles, or 2 7 weeks, or 2 weeks. So it's not impossible that we have 2 weeks and the last one will be chopped in half, and the last bit of the last lot is the 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. So we'll have to find out living through it, because we can speculate as much as we can. But if we have the roadmap in the back of our mind, we can connect the dots as they happen. All right, into this Torah portion. Ha'azinu, give ear, means to listen to this. It's a 53rd Torah portion, the second last one, and it's basically all about the Song of Moses. And it begins with the words, give ear, O heavens, and let me speak. Isn't it interesting that Yahweh is not addressing the people? He's now addressing the heavens. Why? Because they moved into our realm. He's now addressing them, and we hear it anyway. So what's going to happen in the heavens? We know that whatever happens in the heavens will happen first, and then it will manifest in the physical. So he's addressing the heavens, so things might happen there, and then it will manifest in our presence, in the physical. And we need to give ear, because that gives us a bit of an unfair advantage towards the people in the world. Because we are connected to the spiritual patterns and the spiritual understanding of things. We see things before they happen, then we know they will happen, and then we see it, how it manifests. That's why we got a heads up, an advantage of reading the book of Revelation. The Revelation 1 verse 3 says, blessed are those who read this book and do what is within it. So we need to study that to understand the patterns and what is to come. Now I'm going to discuss a pattern, because everything in the scripture is always a pattern. Just like the waves at the sea, you see the waves breaking, and then you'll see a bigger one, and then they go back, and then there's the small ones, and then you get a bigger one. Prophecy is the same. People will say, oh, no, prophecy is going to be full because this, and this happened. No, it's a small one. It looks like the big one, but it's not the actual one yet. So we have to wait for the big one. Now, what we discovered living in this last 2 years is a small wave of the real that's coming. So people will say, oh, the things that's happening with the big C and the big V and all things happening. Oh, it's happening, it's this, that. No, it's a small one. It looks exactly like the big one. It's not the big one yet. It's preparing us. Why is that? Because we that are in the know, who are reading that book, we will be blessed. Because we now connect the dots. We are mentally preparing, and some of us can maybe physically prepare in some way in order to deal with the big wave when it comes. So it's blessing in disguise of understanding the patterns. And people who don't study the pattern, guess what will happen? They will be struck with fear. They will immediately switch to panic mode. Their reptile brain will take over, and they will fight or flight or freeze. And we will still be able to think. And I think that's your most important weapon, is the ability to be able to think in a time of crisis. If you lose that ability, the enemy has won already. Imagine an army approaching another army, and this army, all of them, are struck with fear, panic, they don't know what to do. That other army will just come and walk over them.
That's why the whole thing of protecting your heart.
Yeah, your emotional center need to be grounded.
Yeah. It's far more powerful than your brain, which can be affected by all the.
But you see, what you hear,
goes on around you.
brainwashing, whatever, the heart need to be founded solid in the Torah and then built on faith. And that need to be stable. Otherwise, your heart will fear, will fail you, your mind will take over, and all the brainwashing rubbish will then cause your reptile brain to jump onto those things, and your K-lines will just play out and will do exactly you've been told to do. Yeah, that's how people give in. They don't guard their hearts. Ha'azina is the gematria of 79, and it means Delilah, feeble. Isn't that interesting? What's Delilah? Was she more wise than Solomon or than Samson? Yes, she was. She knew the root of his strength. And she found a way to break him and then hand him over to the enemy. So the same tactic is being used today. What is the root of our strength? Our hearts, to be stable and grounded. What will cause you to give up? Fear, panic. And then she will come and cut off your hair, and you'll be powerless. And there will be no more covering. Long-necked, oppression, forsaken. And then we see the conflict wants to expire, to die, to perish, to give up, the ghost, mortar, clay, to slip away, wrapping, and garment. And all of those things sound like someone's dying. Because clay, you go back to dust, you go back into the ground, you give up the ghost, you perish, or you expire. You've got a little expiry date. And then you are wrapped up, and you put in your coffin, and then you go back into the ground. So that's the negative side of things on what is going to happen during this time that Yahweh is now announcing, and we need to give ear. The positive side of that is Elohim waits, he tarries. Boaz is our kinsman redeemer that is going to deliver us so that we can leave. He will release us so we can escape and remove us from the situation. And then you pass on in advance and you become part of a congregation and a gathering where he will give ear to the testimony and the witness of what Yahweh has intact for us. So you'll see the climax of the conflict that's happening and what has happened in the background. Yahweh has someone that has a message. And if you give ear to that message, you will be delivered, protected, and be part of a congregation where he will look after you. And that sounds like the woman where the flood will go out. He will give her wings, take her away, and look after her for 3.5 years. It sounds similar to that. The flood will come. People will fall for it, and they will be consumed, and some of them will die. But those who give ear to Yahweh's word, they will be protected. So the Song of Moses is a song that's the theme of this Torah portion, but we also see the same theme in Revelation. Now, the Song of Moses has been sung at the time prior to entering the promised land, or in that same phase or time period. And the Song of Moses that will be sung in the future will be sung in the context of the people who have been saved, who are standing on a sea of glass, and they are the ones who overcame the beast, who overcame his statue, and overcame the number of his name. And that's also in context of the 7 last plagues, or the bowls, which is Aquarius being poured out. So the Song of Moses is a song of victory that's sung by those who haven't fallen and gave in to the tactics of the beast, or the power of his image, or the number of his name, which is to do with his mark. So that's a very powerful scene, if you think about that. If we want to sing the Song of Moses, you're not going to sing it in the beginning of the tribulation, you'll sing it at the end, after you overcame that. After you've proven and stood the test. But if you gave in, you're not going to sing that song. So that's the encouragement, but also the warning. Now what's in Revelation 15 verse 3 to 4, it says, "Great and marvelous are your works, Adonai El Shaddai. Just and true are your ways, O King of the saints. Who will not fear you, O Yahweh, and glorify your name? You alone are holy, for all nations shall come and worship before you, for your judgments have been manifested." So this is after the smoke clears, after that war that will happen at the end of the tribulation. That's when the song will be sung. And the nations will see Yahweh's wondrous works and how powerful he is in his judgments. Just like in the time when Israel left Egypt, multitude left Egypt when they saw the power of this God, of the Israelites. I want to be with them. And that's the same that's going to happen. People will assemble with the people of Yahweh and join them to become part of the household of Yahweh because of the judgments. And that's why I say everything is always founded upon grace. Yahweh is flexing his muscles. He's not destroying everything 100%. He does it to reveal himself to the nations so that they can come in. That's his motive. It's not because he's angry, because he's offended, and he just want to squash you because he can. He still want to save everyone in the midst of all this. And those who listen, they will be singing this song with the saints. Now the beast and his statue and authority is basically the authority of the beast system, and the number is the mark of his name. Now there's a pattern that's been unfolding in our midst, and I think in the last couple of weeks we actually heard about it. It's called the quantum dot solution, I will call it. I've got a picture of it there, and it basically has 2 functions. It gives you this solution which they present, but it also leaves a mark so they can see who received the solution. And this is the foreshadow of the real that is to come. This is not the real. But if people are now submitting to this, they will 100% submit to the real, because this one is not that bad. No one is dying specifically. But if you look at it later on in the prophetic picture, people will be full-only persecuted. And there will be severe things rolled out. And there will be a definite separation of the sheep and the goats when it's really truly there. So this is an initial test.
Just training for us.
Pre-warning. We connect the dots. Yes, what we read in Revelation, even Charlie was not really a believer. But he read a Bible once back in the day, and he remembered the verse, this specific one, and he connected the dots.
Really?
And he quoted it.
Gosh.
Yes. Even people who's been backslidden, who once read in the past anything about Revelation, it will come to mind, and Yahweh will remind them of it. And that will be the means to bring them back in. Those who connect the dots, those who give ear when they see these things. So when will all this happen? Because people say, no, it's already happening. No, it's not happening. This is the mark of the beast. No, it's not the mark of the beast. What is it? So there's specifically things that Yeshua said in Matthew 24, do not be deceived. There will be two things that's happening. And when you see those two things, then you know the time of the end has come, as been written in the book of Daniel. And the two things we're looking out for is sacrifices need to be stopped. So that means they need to start it first. They will normally start around a Passover, trying to do a sacrifice with a Passover lamb. If they do that, someone will get upset and they will stop it. Once you see that, some guy with big ears will walk up the Temple Mount to declare himself as the Antichrist or the Savior or whatever, or the Messiah. We don't know. And that's the second sign.
So the first thing will be the sacrificing of the red heifer, won't it? To consecrate the altar.
That's the pre-sign,
Yes.
but the sacrifices, plural, will be stopped, which normally links to the daily sacrifices. And I think the daily sacrifices will follow the Passover lamb sacrifice, which has been the sacrifice which they tried, I think, since 2010. They've been trying to do a Passover. Next year they're trying to do a Passover. And once they could do that, they will have the red heifer, they'll cleanse the area, and then they start the daily sacrifices. And they're busy preparing the red heifer. I don't know whether they have one. If they have one, will they disclose that they have one? Maybe not.
I saw an article.
They got at least two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is a problem
No.
to start the daily sacrifices.
They've also, as we know, set up a mock altar
Yes.
at the Western Wall and done at Passover. Yeah, morning and evening sacrifices at least once.
Yeah.
So it may not actually have to happen on the Temple Mount. There may not actually have to be a temple.
They call it the holy place, so it's in the area of the temple.
Yeah.
They will first do the red heifer before they lay the foundation of the temple. They need to cleanse the area first. And they will do the daily sacrifice as part of the cleansing rituals anyway. So the temple will follow, but these signs will precede the building of the temple. And these are the things that Yeshua said we need to watch out for the 3.5 years, the 1,260 days to start. And just like with the Omer, just like with first fruits, just with like Shavuot, you start counting.
This is the way I think about it, Philip, and I could be wrong. Yes, this could be a dress rehearsal, or it could be a slow implementation of the eventual mark. We see in China that they're doing something where you cannot buy or sell. We see in Australia that we've got personal QR codes for the double vaccinated.
I don't use that word.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, double V. So this could be a dress rehearsal, or it could be a build-up to the major event.
Well, so let me give you insights on, we've got a world-class consultant that's implementing a new business system that they implement all over the world, the same model. Now, what they do within this model, whenever you want to implement something new, you call it an experiment. You advise people what's happening with the experiment, you set up the systems, and then you test it. You nut out bugs, what's not going to work, what's working, what we need to tweak. Once they have it, then they launch a pilot. A pilot is the larger of the small. They roll it out across multiple of the same. You do it in a small area first. So, for example, if you want to test it, you'll do it in one small area. Let's call it a state or a whatever. Once they nut that out, they might do another experiment in another one, where they test something else. Then they'll do another one, where they test something else. Once they have all their little things nutted out, systems put in place, everything, they will roll out the pilot, which will include the whole nation. They will switch it on. Then they will monitor that and see if there's any tweaks and things, and then they will take it to the next level too. We go live now. So that's the phases for implementing new business systems within the modern way of implementing those things that we are doing at work
Do
currently.
you reckon that's what's happening here?
Yeah, they're doing small experiments. They first had the things down south, then in the other little desert place, they did the other one the other day. Then they're doing things here. So in America, they do certain things, and so little experiments.
And what's happening within the context of our nation then is the model that they implement.
And then they test it with another one and tweak it a little bit because you've got different cultures and different religions and different things, because you want to not let people freak out. At work, we don't want to lose anyone. We don't want people to resign. We want them to learn this new way, adopt this new way, change your way of thinking. And they call it fertile ground that you do first. So you educate them. You take them by the hand, you tell them how wonderful it is. Then you slowly introduce these little experiments. Yes.
And I think that lines up with what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And this company, I'm trained as a consultant. I can be a consultant internationally. So I've been trained in this process to roll this out. And this is the new way of doing business. So what they do, they take out the authority level completely. And the whole business is run by the people. They've got the authority now. What do we see? We see the same patterns happening around us. It's no longer the authority up there. It's now within a smaller circle where they can make a decision. It's the same formula. It's an internationally proven formula that has been developed over 40 years. So this is not the real, it's a small experiment. The real is still to come.
In the language. How often have you heard this new thing? LGA, 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 LGA.
Giving us the...
Yeah. So there's a lot of people freaking out now. Yes, you have to freak out a little bit, but you need to look at yourself. You need to sort yourself out.
Stay strong.
This is what this day is for, is to make sure you elevate your level of holiness, become more serious with Yahweh, and then start praying for other people who are still blinded, still compliant with the darkness, not towards Yahweh's things, and people are still not embracing Yahweh's things, to start to raise awareness wherever there's opportunity to do so. And we will get more and more opportunities because people will need answers. They will come to people who are, studying the scripture. What do you think? What do you think? And then you have opportunity to speak into their lives.
So the testings we're feeling now are a good thing because we get a chance to see our own weakness before delight.
Myself.
Yes.
Is your wheels falling off? Do you waver? Have you said, if push comes to shove, yeah, maybe, that kind of thing? That's a red light going there. You need to, I need to rethink this because this is a test. Am I passing this test or not?
I just don't think how far back this goes, because what you're saying really brought to memory this understanding of what happened in the banking system. The old days, you know this, Estelle, you'd go to the local bank manager and you develop a relationship. If you're in business or you want a mortgage or whatever else, he already knows you because he's been your point of contact for all sorts of things. So what did they do? Now they remove the decision making from the bank manager. They don't have any control whatsoever. Now it's controlled by a computer, basically. The decisions are caused by a computer. Not only that, they implemented a policy where they would move employees from bank to bank. They would never allow a group of employees to develop a strong relationship. And I never really fully understood it. Now I understand. It's the same with, okay, we keep people in, we break up all the means by which they can communicate in order to protect themselves.
Yeah, they take the emotion out of it.
Yes.
If you can engage with someone through a system, better through a computer. They call them little computer robots. Whenever you have a complaint on a website, there will be a thing, can I help you?
Yeah.
That's software, it's not a person. Emotionless, you can swear at that thing, it won't matter. So that's our interface now. So there's someone behind it that put it in place, and they don't have to deal with you and your emotional state.
We already have 3 of the same hospitals in Australia. Same manner.
All right.
Yes, 3.
Yeah, they're protocols. Say, for example, whenever there's a crisis, there's an emergency plan, emergency protocols, and the staff will get the instructions from the system what to do.
Not from the doctors anymore. They now get
So you take the emotion out, you just follow the procedures.
Yeah.
You've been employed to
And that was
follow
The plan
procedure.
is people won't go to a doctor, they'll go to AI for their diagnosis.
Yeah, but they don't think about it that way. They think it's just protocols that's been worked out by clever people.
We all wanted to do it now.
It's images.
Yeah, of this doctor. But it's fine.
Yeah, it's, more and more dots are connecting in my
Yeah, the
mind.
stage has been set.
Stretching back to to childhood really. Puzzling over various things, and you can see the patterns, of
Yeah.
things being implemented over a long period of time. I used to think that we were out of the period of, what do you call it? The sea. We were out of that when we were children. No. It had already happened before we were born.
Yeah.
We were immersed in it, but we just didn't see it.
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix, take the red pill.
Yes.
It was only when we took the red pill, and I know the point at which I took the red pill, that I start to see, this world that I've been living in is not the reality. And then it starts to emerge what is actually happening and what has been happening before you were born.
Yeah. Very long ago.
Right, the 2 witnesses. I just call them 2 witnesses. I think they fit the same pattern because they're 2 things that bear witness, and both need to be there. You need more than 1 witness to establish truth. In the same way, if you want to see when the sign is happening, you need 2 things, not only 1, because it can be misinterpreted. So these 2 witnesses is called the abomination of desolation and the sacrifice being stopped. So we're going to look at the word abomination, and also about what is going to be stopped. So the first word is abomination. That's the word shikatz. Shin kuf vav tzadik. That means idle, abominable, filth, detestable thing. This word is used in Deuteronomy 29:17, that's describing the abominable idols they worshipped in Egypt. Desolation is the word shemem. That means to destroy, lay waste, to be silenced, astonishment, amazed, and awestruck. So that's when the judgment will come and bring desolation. And that's where Yahweh's power will be shown. And that's also in the meaning of this. Now, Shemem has the gematria of 380 that we looked at last week, just in remembrance. It's the word Egypt, bondage, Archite. Archite are the people who are basically worshipping Egypt or Pharaoh in the area where they are. So he's henchman. Then crossroad, parting ways. Now this is interesting. Within our clash, let's call it the clash of the realms, we're already seeing that clash happening. And what's the consequence of it? What's the outcome of that? Parting ways, separation. We see that coming from advice. You need to separate socially. We also feel that with family members. People don't see eye to eye on certain things. There's a natural separation happening, clashes happening amongst people, family members, friends, work colleagues. And that separation will happen. The more pressure, the more the separation will be. That's why in Revelation, I think it's 21, it says, there will be a total separation between the sheep and the goats. You can't sit on the fence anymore. You won't have choice. And I see it with my own eyes. you can't sit on the fence anymore. You'll either do this or you do the opposite. You can't do nothing anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that was the message that came across during this conference during the week. Is it's time to take a stand. You can't just say,
Sit on
"Oh,
the fence.
we'll wait and see what happens." It's time to take a stand, make your decision, and take action.
Is Shemem, because the word for heavens is Shemayim, isn't
we
it?
get to that one in a sec.
Oh, okay. I think it's
You
got
are
words.
correct. And it's got a very beautiful meaning to it when you look at the two in relation to another. So then, of course, to crush, to oppress, violent one, plunder, tear apart, break off, heavy dark cloud, thick darkness, devastated, distress, desolate, to be stunned, fragment, and broken. There will be a lot of broken people, isn't it, after this thing that's happening. Then we see the word goldsmith, which is a random word, but it will make sense a bit later on, where we're going to look at goldsmith in the context of my initial question I asked, and it will make more sense then. Then we see the theme of Yom Kippur. First one, garments. Garment is to cover. That's the word Kippur. Then we see the he-goat and the knife, the goat that's sacrificed. Then we see the drop-off, the goat that's been the Azazel. So all of that now is in the context of Yom Kippur. Then breach in the context of a baby that's been born, which is a breech baby. Now a breech baby can cause people to die when they have a breech baby, or it's a very, very painful birth. So this time, which is called the Great Tribulation, is also called the Great Birth, where the breech babies will be born. The people will be born as a result of extreme pain and hardship. They will come to faith as a result of that. Very powerful, isn't it? And then we see salvation, deliverance of tongue, nation, and number, count, and language. That's the meaning of people, nations, multitude coming to faith. And then at the end we see constellation. Of course, that's the word for the great bear, which links to the kingdom of the north. And what we saw last time, it means to come down in haste to help. That's Yahweh's character. Grace and the urgency to come and rescue and save in the midst of this. I've already said all of that. The goldsmith. So the goldsmith transforms souls through the cleansing cycles, which has to do with fire, brimstone, torture. And we'll have a look at the word specifically later on. So now you sort of get an idea where I'm coming from when I say Yahweh do something out of grace. The brimstone, the torture, is part of the goldsmith's tasks in order to repurpose something of value into something that's more valuable. It's never to destroy. So we're going to look at the Greek words. And I was amazed when I saw that. I didn't even think that the plain Greek words mean this. I always thought, no, it's hell, fire, brimstone. Yahweh's angry, just want to destroy. It's not like that at all. So that's the goldsmith. Moving on.
Just use your cursor as well, please.
Okay, cursor is now.
Do you want to ask
Oh
something?
no, just like when we were talking about the breech birth, made
Yeah.
me think, interesting that a breech birth means the baby's facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
When you think of, in a spiritual sense. And also,
They.
Yaakov, was it Yaakov, his heel came
Yeah,
out
his heel
first?
came out
So
first.
that's a breech.
Yeah, it's a breech baby as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of people who are walking the wrong direction, and eventually they will be born, but through pain,
Look at Jacob's life. It's so symbolic, isn't it?
near death. Yeah, it's only grace.
And then Jacob's life is the mirror of the nation of
Yeah.
Israel.
It's called Jacob's trouble.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at the word desolate, shamem. The shamem, as I already said, means destroy, lay waste, to be silenced, astonishment, amazement, and awestruck. But it also means something that's totally destroyed due to an event. So I've got a picture there of trees and a bushfire, whatever happened there. It's no longer bearing fruit, there's no shade, you can't live there, it's just a mess. And that's a result of the two kingdoms coming into context with conflict with one another. Now, Shemem is first used in Leviticus 26, where Yahweh proclaimed himself as God of Israel. So he's proclaiming himself to present himself, and then he also gave the tabernacle in the presence to be among his people. And then he warned them not to worship abominable things. If you read chapter 26, Leviticus 26, in verse 22, he said, "Wild beasts shall kill your children, destroy your cattle, and your highways will be made desolate." Verse 25, "He will bring the sword against you, as well as pestilence, and take you into captivity." Verse 26, "There will be a shortage of bread." Verse 29, "You'll eat the flesh of your sons and daughters." 30 and 31, "You will destroy your idols and places of worship." Verse 34, "No planting and harvest, the land shall have its Sabbath," sabbatical year. And when I saw that, it's in sync with this year. And this is a warning for those who are worshipping idols. And it's a warning to his people who have the presence of his tabernacle amongst them. What we have here is a tabernacle. It's a mobile, portable fellowship housing the presence of Yahweh. Down the road, there might be another one. Another country, there's another one. They're all over the place. They're mobile, and that's what we call the body of Messiah. So this warning is to the body of Messiah not to worship idols. And if you do, these things will happen to you. And it's terrible. So how do you eat your children? How do you think you eat your children?
It's through famine.
No, not out of hunger. What's in the big V?
Oh.
Sterility.
No, there's fetus material
Oh,
in there. So they take of your own kind, put it in something, and then put it in you.
Yeah.
Then your body consume that.
And it's not just in this V,
No.
it's in all a whole lot of these.
Yeah. And that is a sign that we're already cursed. That's just one of the things. We are currently in captivity. How's that? Hey, isn't it? With all these things happening around us. We're in captivity. We're not free.
No.
Because we worship idols. And we brought it upon ourselves. Don't blame anyone else. Blame the body of Messiah for this happening to us in this day. It's our fault. We were supposed to be the nation and the kingdom of priests, the light of this world. What did we do? No, we mixed with them. We worship their gods. We promote that, defile his word, and created religion. And brought all these curses upon the whole world. It's our fault.
Just on that note, the Lutheran Church in America just appointed their first trans bishop.
Another curse coming down. Catching. Yeah, it's bad.
So we part of the broken down tabernacle of David.
Yeah.
About in Amos 9.
Yeah. Yeah. It's flapping in the wind. Things are torn. It's artifacts stolen. People still come in there and put their idols in there and worship.
Or is that Israel?
No, it's the body. Because this tabernacle exists at the time of the Jordan. If it were referring to the temple, it would have been more towards our Jewish brothers. But this is more for the body of Messiah. And they are situated all over the world currently.
The idol thing, it goes through the whole body of Christ, but you think of the major denomination in the world, Catholicism.
Yeah.
Every country it's been in
Very
has
explicit.
encompassed the pagan idolatry of that nation.
Yeah, the second highest commandment, do not make idols and worship them.
That's what
They've done that.
They've done.
Yeah.
And all other religions go under that
Yeah.
anyway.
And they go and kiss the hand of the one.
And also at the inauguration of the Pope, they set up this man as a proxy god,
Yeah.
a god man.
Yeah. And he can change laws and rules or whatever because he represents God. And unfortunately, the Jews, the Orthodox Jews, believe the same of themselves. That's why they can change the Torah, because they've got that same proxy and that same authority. It's the same spirit behind it, which is the spirit of religion, which brought down this plague upon them as well. And they have suffered dearly already. Okay, Shamem sounds like the word Shamayim
Where are you now?
at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
The only difference is the Yod. Shamayim means heavens and Yod means hand, the unseen hand of Yahweh. So if you think about the heavens, it's beautiful and all that. Yahweh's hand is in that. But when he takes his hand out of something, it turned to desolation. So what we have here is the heavenly powers coming down. Yahweh's hand is not in it. He allowed the dark spiritual forces to come upon humanity as a plague because his hand is removed.
Like
Because of the
removal
curse.
of the lampstands from
That's
the
right.
And this is 100% in line with Yom Kippur. Kippur means covering. His hand is the covering because his body is not doing what he asked him to do, worshipping idols. He's removing his hand, and the curse now come upon them and upon their land and upon their nation. So is Yahweh angry?
Yes,
No, he's just tired. He wanted to rest his hand, just take his hand back, put it on the couch and just see what they do now. So for him to bring a curse and great judgment upon people, all he have to do is to pull his hand back. He doesn't have to smite anyone. Just pull his hand back and the evil forces that exist there will come and we will destroy one another anyway without his hand amongst us, let alone the spiritual forces.
The restrainer has.
He's Kippur, he's covering.
Restraining all this time. Yeah. He hasn't been meting out judgment. All he has to do is
Put his hand back. And then everything turned to nothing.
The same with the heavens declare the handiwork,
Yeah.
declares who he is. So, but men are ignoring his handiwork and not acknowledging who he is. So if he removes the hand, that's a beautiful picture, isn't it?
And it's also true to his name. Yod Hei Vav Hei. If you remove the Yod from there, what does it mean? It's Haya. That means ruin. If you remove the Yod from his name, it turns to ruin.
And that's what you saw on the Western on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Yahweh's hand is very, very, very important in our lives. You need to allow his hand in your life to have his covering. If not, your life will turn to ruin and everything will turn to destruction.
It's the smallest letter.
It's the smallest letter, and his hand, his Yod is a symbol of his spirit. Those who have his spirit are only those who have his hand still in their lives,
so
if they listen to
the
him.
Yod, smallest letter, is still small voice.
Listen, give ear.
Listen to that.
This Torah portion's message is listen to the still small voice. Otherwise, his small hand, which you can't see, will be removed, and your whole life will fall into a heap and ruin.
And ultimately, that's grace.
It is grace.
Grace is separating us from his awesome presence, his awesome power. Imagine how you'd feel. He allows us, by an act of grace, to live in ignorance of his immense power and authority. Otherwise, you'd just be.
We're blinded by our own
Just be
lives that we create that keep our illusion alive. If you remove that, you'll see it as it is, and it's destruction and ruin.
His grace is also to punish his children in Hebrews 12, 5 to 10.
Good Father.
So that we would return to him.
Yeah, it's not to kill, destroy, it's to chastise them like a loving Father.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many times I've heard by the anti-law mob. And I'm not, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm not.
The religious
I'm not being,
people. Yeah.
Because I understand where they're coming from, because I've been there myself. Oh, I don't see any grace in the Old Testament. You're totally blind. What are you talking about?
Just grace.
It's all grace. It's all grace from beginning to end.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to look at the abomination. That's the word shikutz. Have I looked at this before? Oh, maybe not. Gematria of 496, that means shame, disgrace, bundle, portion, pouch, bag, thistles, nettles, thorny or useless plant, detestable thing or idol, abominable thing, abomination, idol. Now the thing I want to get to is the word Leviathan, sea monster, dragon, serpent, a symbol of Babylon, royalty, royal power, reign, kingdom, sovereign power, openness, and then to kindle, burn, and to set on fire.
There's nothing nice in that, is there?
So what you can see is the Babylonian system has the sovereign power behind it of the serpent, which is symbolically Leviathan, which is the abominable thing. And all the idols, why Yahweh is so upset with idols? Because all those things are images of the kingdom of darkness and the entity behind that, and all his henchmen.
Is that not the first seal, the rider and the white horse? Royal but brings...
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it, yeah. That's just part of it. And then Yahweh will light a little fire, set it alight, and let it burn. So this is the way Babylon will be destroyed. And that we read in the book of Revelation. We also read in Zechariah 14, at the end of the 1,000 year, you'll see the same judgment coming upon the same kingdom. Because Leviathan, or the serpent, will be released at the end of the 7 years as well, after 1,000 years.
Talking about the abominable thing, takes me back to the scripture that says that they will stand behind the tree and eat the abominable thing.
Yes. And what it, so eat can be the fruit of, and the fruit is something that contains seed, and seed is the word or the nature that is within.
They stand behind the tree, so they reckon, they use Yeshua, tree of life, but in the meantime we do abominable.
They take the fruit from the Leviathan.
Oh, yes.
You mentioned the connection between the V and the eating of the.
Yeah.
But we've also got happening in the world right now.
Yeah, it's happening in
It's
real
the
life.
actual.
Yes, they do that. The elite.
And and then they present it as a symbolic. The parties they have in Hollywood with the representation of an actual human being, and they all go and they symbolically, and I'm thinking, how despicable is that? And yet,
it's part of the curse that they're entrapped in.
Wow.
Isaiah 27 verse 1 tells us a bit more about Leviathan. He said, in that day, I wonder what day that is, Yahweh will punish with his sword, his fierce, great and powerful sword, Leviathan, the gliding serpent, Leviathan, the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea. So
he's the nations.
So he's controlling the nations. And there's only one weapon, and it's the sword of the word of Yahweh that will slay the serpent. So the powerful sword of Yahweh is the word cheref, That's first used in scripture in Genesis 3:24, where the two cherubims guarded the tree or the way to the tree of life with a flaming sword. Cheref comes from the root word charav, that means to be waste, lay waste, make desolate, be ruins. So now you see that the sword of Yahweh also is similar to Yahweh removing his hand. So him speaking judgment and him just removing his hand has got the same effect. And he's going to do both. Double whammy coming. So we already have the word. So we're on the right side of the sword, so to speak. If you're in his army, you won't be against his sword. And this is a great mighty sword that will come against the power, the dragon of the nations that sit behind the nations. And all that is against Yahweh and for Leviathan, they will come against the mighty great sword of Yahweh. And then they will get the judgment of him, his word that will go out, the two-edged sword that we read about, which is Mashiach, Yeshua. All right, daily. That's the other thing that will happen. The second witness is the daily sacrifices will be stopped. But in Daniel 12, verse 11, sacrifice is in italics. And that daily is the word tamid. Then we have in Daniel 9:27, where it actually talks about the end of the sacrifices, which is zebah. So you have the two things that's going to be stopped. The one just referred to daily, the other one referred to the daily sacrifice. And the second one, or in Daniel 9, it refers to in the middle of the week. So there's a 7-year period, the middle of that is 3.5 years, and that's where the sacrifices will be stopped, which is the sign of the two witnesses of the starting of the 3.5 years.
Philip, so what does the first daily mean?
I'm going to get to that now. So before we get to the Tamid one, I just want to look at the Zebah, which is to do with sacrifice. Zebah means sacrifice offering, and that's where the physical Zebah is stopped. Zebah is the gematria of 17. That means act proudly, act presumptuously, act rebelliously, be presumptuous, be arrogant, be rebelliously proud. And then you get the consequence of that is burden, lot, woe, to boil up, sacrifice, to punish, thrust, chase, overthrow, trotter, saw, drive away, or drive out, to be outcast, to be cast down, something cut down. So that is what will happen when the daily sacrifice will stop. That's the consequence of that. And this consequence is basically earmarked for those who are proud and rebellious. And then on the other side, we see Yahweh's grace, troop, which is a symbol of Yahweh's army, and fishermen. So that's the judges we've been talking about that will be raised. They will be fishers of men, just like the disciples. And they will be the army of Yahweh that will go in the midst of this chaos and things happening to rescue people and the nations, so that they will come in during that time. Since the daily sacrifice will stop, that will be the job of the army of Yahweh, is to rescue them. Also use the word at the end, to be happy, to be right, and to make a circle. The word circle is also linked to the hedge, which is the protection of the Torah. And that's where the woman will be taken away and she will be protected and looked after. Same as the shepherd looking after his sheep with a hedge during this dark time. All right, the next one is the word tamid. That means daily, continual, perpetual. Now, when it says in Daniel 12:11, it talks about the daily, tamid, is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up. There will be 1,290 days. So what does this daily refer to? Yes, it can be a sacrifice, but there's other things that might be stopped as well. So in order to get the idea of what it might be, is I've looked at the gematria of 1,290. I've got a 7 there, it shouldn't be there. And that's the word teraphim. I couldn't find a gematria for 1260, but there's one for 1290, which is the word teraphim. That means idolatry, idols, and family idols. Now this word is first found in Genesis 31, where Rachel stole the family idols of her father Laban and hid them. Now I want to step back into what activated the curse that came upon the people of Yahweh, where the tabernacle was in their midst. Idol worship. What idols? Family idols. What are these family idols consisting of? Oh, it's the thing that comes from my culture. I'm bringing into Yahweh's faith. I'm mixing in my little family thing. I'm from German descent. I bring this in. I'm from that descent. I bring that in. I'm from that descent. I think I'll still be a Freemason or whatever. You know, it's about the mixing of your family origins that are rooted in paganism that's now mixed into the household of Yahweh. And that's what the symbolism of this is. So what does it mean that after 1290 days, things will be stopped, and then there's a period of 1290 days that's connected to family idols and man-made religion? What does that imply?
Asking it.
It will take 1290 days to get religion out of the people. So the severe cleansing that they're going to go through, that we looked at through the gematria, is going to take that long to get most of the people in the body of Messiah to let go of their man-made traditions. That's a very stronghold if it takes that long. One plague after another. Read Revelation. Still not budging. 7 seals. Still not budging. Then the trumpets. Still not budging. How long will it take for people to lose their stubbornness, their rebellion? The rebellious nature. And thinking that they are right.
Is that also 1290 days to the mark of the beast and the idol set up by the other side too?
Now this is when things are stopped, then there will be 1290 days and there will be 1260 days. Now these two have different purposes.
Okay.
1260 days links to 3.5 years directly. 1290 days links to the cleansing of the house of Yahweh, the body of Messiah, which is symbolic of that. And last time with Hanukkah, I had to look at it. I just put in this year's
Which links with Sukkot.
meanings. So basically, I took 3.5 years. The 3 years is easy. When you're Passover, you count 3 Passovers. The half, you can convert to days, and then you count the number of days from the last Passover to get 3.5 years. That's how I count that. Because we're not in the Gregorian calendar, we want to stick to the biblical one. You count 3 Passovers for 3 years. You don't count days. And then from the last Passover, you count the decimal, which is 0.5 of a year, which relates to 165 days for 3.5 years and 195 days for 1290 days. So when you count 1290 days through a 3.5 year cycle, for example, if we use this here, Passover was 29th of March. When you count 195 days from that, you bring it to the 10th of October, which is in the fall festival, specifically between Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur. That's this week. So this is interesting that when you look at the household of Yahweh, the counting will bring you into the fall festival season. And people who repented from their religion will adopt to the festivals, and they will be present on a Sukkot, ready to go into a Sukkot. That's what that implies. So that's the enlightened ones going into the kingdom.
Sorry, Philip. Also, the cleansing of the temple lines up with Hanukkah, which
Yes.
is the second Sukkot.
Yes,
That's right.
100%. All in line with what I just said here. Everything matched perfectly. But the number 1,290 days is about removing family idols from the body of Messiah. And then end up in a fall festival season so you can celebrate Sukkot, which complies with Zechariah 14.
And isn't there another count says there's another 45 days?
Now that's the difference between 1,260 and 1,290. Yeah, there's another 45 days. Yeah, there's another one. It's mornings and evenings, it's a double count of that. There's a 45 days difference. And what I think that might mean is when you see the sacrifices starting and stopping, there might be a 45-day grace period before the idol is set up or the abomination of desolation is set up. So that will give you a 45-day head start before the Antichrist starts his reign and start enforcing things. So the running to the hills, you've got 45 days to run.
Get used to bindis.
So that's when we will physically run to the hills. And as we discussed previously, when they left Egypt, the first place they went to is a Sukkot. We're not going to a place called Sukkot, we're going to a festival called Sukkot. There will be multiple places all over the world where like-minded people will celebrate the Sukkot, come together, and wherever they come together, that is called Sukkot, where you need to go to. So I believe, and this is my personal interpretation, you'll see these signs around a Passover, and then the next Sukkot that will come up, that's where the assembly of the congregation will happen. That will bind that group together, and they will then travel through the 3.5 years as a fellowship, a tabernacle, being led by one of the 144,000, I believe.
Helping some of the others. That
Being the army, yes, and helping the breech babies and coming to faith, and then people will join them during that time.
Excuse me, Philip, again, that 45-day window, is that the difference between the first Sukkot on our calendar and the second Sukkot being Hanukkah?
It might be. It might be. Yes.
Yeah, thought about that.
Yeah. We'll definitely look at that during Hanukkah as a topic. Yeah.
But that's very interesting.
All right.
I'm talking too much.
No, you
No, not.
Good. Yeah.
Now we're going to get into some juicy bits.
What? This hasn't been juicy so far?
The gematria of Tamid is 454. That means continually, daily, stretch, tablets, 2 wells, which is Dothan, belonging to a fountain, seal, signet, and then the other 3 is husband's mother, lord, and noble, which is just the authority figure. So what I want to emphasize here is the signet, which is the seal. And the reason that stood out for me, because there's been language thrown around in the world that there are people that are currently marked.
Sealed.
So they received a signal, a signet, or a sign, or a seal that others can identify them. So looking at the signet, that's the word Hotham. That's found in Exodus 28:11, where the 2 onyx stones were engraved like the engravings of a signet, with the 12 names of the 12 tribes, 6 names on each stone, and they were placed on the shoulders of the high priest to bring in the presence of Yahweh to make atonement for those nations. Now that connect to Shechem. Shechem means shoulder. Those 2 onyx stones was on the shoulder, and it had 6 names on this one, 6 names on that one. Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, mountain of blessing, mountain of curses. Same tribes. So what we see here is that the house is divided, and we read about that. There will be a divide. You'll get the ones who choose the curse. You get the ones who choose the blessing. The ones of the blessing, Gerizim has the Zion, the sword of Yahweh, the Torah, they're the army. The other one's going to be the casualties, the damaged ones that need to be helped. And it will take 1,290 days to get them on the other mountain. So that's a symbolism of that. And this has to do with things that's going to start when the sacrifice stop. That a great divide will happen. Then the conflict. And then those on the mountain of curses will have opportunity to join the mountain of blessing. And they will be part of the breach babies that will come in together with the nations. Hotham is also relating to the name of the father of two great warriors of King David. Now, King David is King David, that's Mashiach, the king. And he will have great warriors that will be raised, that will stand against the kingdom of darkness from the time the sacrifices will be stopped. The warriors will be raised up. The judges will come into play. The army of Yahweh will be established. And what we're doing now is training for the army of Yahweh so we can be used during the time of the 3.5 years where those on the mountain of curses, they will come in and nations will come in as well during this time of turmoil. So that is the purpose of that. The other place Tamid is used in is in Exodus 27:20, which is in the context of the holy place and the menorah. And we also read about the lampstand and the menorah and the 7 stars, which links to Revelation chapter 2 and 3, and also what Yeshua said, that if you don't have oil, you have no light, the lampstand will be removed. So guess where the lampstands will be? On Mount Gerizim, mountain where the Torah is. That's where the 1,290 days will bring you into a fall festival cycle, which you embrace the Torah. And people will come to a Sukkot. And they've got 3 Sukkots. No, actually 4. You've got the first year Sukkot, second year Sukkot, third year Sukkot, and the next half year will bring them to the last Sukkot. There's also the engraving of the signet, or the engraving of the names of the 12 tribes on the 12 stones on the breastplate of the high priest. That's the last thing that will happen. That's the restored Israel, where they will be fully on the breastplate of the high priest, which is Mashiach, and that's where the 12 tribes each will go into their gate. The 12 stones also depict the 12 foundations entering into the city. That's also the signet, and that's where the mark of the priest and the mark of the beast is different. The mark of the priest is the name of the tribe written on the gemstone, and you will be enrolled into one of those tribes if you don't receive the mark of the beast. Those who receive the mark of the beast cannot receive the mark of Yahweh. And you cannot receive one of those 12 names that's on the breastplate. So where do you go? We're going to look at that next. So they will be on the outside. So this is what I call the great test. When those things are stopped, the abomination of desolation is being set up. In Revelation said that's when the reign of the Antichrist will begin. And right after that it said that's when it will be enforced, where people won't be able to buy and sell unless they have the mark of the beast. What we see now is a shadow of what is to come. That will be the real after these 2 witnesses. So you've got a test now. Am I going to pass the test now? If not, I hope I will pass the test in the next one.
What I want to say, and it's already, if this is just a test, it's already hard. It drains me just to think about, what are we going to do? I mean, I know God is going to look after us, but it's scary. It's scary. So this is just...
This is grace. We've got a little test run here. We know what to do and look inwardly. What's in your heart? Are you on the fence? Are you on this side? Or are you on that side? If you're on the fence or on the wrong side, you have to repent. You need to get on the mountain of blessing as soon as possible. Because when fear really kicks in, that will be very hard.
This is the opportunity, and Yom Kippur fits with that. This is the opportunity to really dig into and analyze your own heart.
That's right.
Yes.
Look at your deepest motives for things. secret desires, secret motivations,
Your
that
secret
you're not-
fear.
that you haven't, secret fears, that you haven't been aware of, because they're on a level that's far more subtle than you've dealt with previously.
And they're surfacing. Panic, fear, confusion.
We've been through kind of a test this week.
Yeah, my wheels fell off, I must tell you.
Yeah, it's just
My wheels fell off.
Of the car.
No, me, personally.
He crashed.
I crashed.
It felt like
Yeah.
information. So
I was just too many negative things happening in the world and too many negative things happening at work.
Yeah.
I lost my cool.
And God always brings us to that,
Yeah.
doesn't He? And Rachel had a similar thing this week as well.
Yeah.
He brings you to that point because He wants to show you where you need to deal with
Which areas are you weak in?
So
In which areas are your weakness? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Delilah working on you?
But He never takes you beyond that.
No.
He just
but it felt,
takes you as close as possible to the complete.
And you had yours
yes,
with your situation.
And I lost, my reaction. I couldn't believe
Yeah.
my reactions.
I know. I know.
could not believe the reaction.
I can't point a finger at anyone.
Listen to yourself.
I thought to myself, gee, Philip, come on. What's wrong with you? You know?
Human heart is deceitful above all things.
I say, I thought you said that we wouldn't be tested beyond, but you are testing me beyond. I'm not passing this test. This was just 2 days ago.
But no, you came back to Yahweh. So you
Yeah.
passed the test.
Yeah, you just need to step in the mud.
And all the flesh that rises.
I know.
So, and he's like the father looking at, oh, have your little tantrum.
And then he give you comfort, give you wisdom.
Give you
sweeties.
Bring you back.
Or if I
love-
was in this
Get
group.
up.
Oh,
Yeah. This is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
jumble, and he
I
says,
know.
Get up off your face.
yes,
Doesn't
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Rachel said the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
But it's a good
That
thing.
is the best of people.
It's a good thing.
Joshua, God says, get up off your
Mighty man of God.
Get up off your face.
Yeah.
Gideon.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this week, definitely. So.
Yeah, we all failed our little
Glad you
tests.
failed too.
You don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
That's all right. That's why I call this grace. Yahweh, give us the insight. Give us the pattern. There's some real life situation happening. How are you going, mate? Not that well. I just slipped. I just struggled with it.
Get on your knees.
And then you can get the next opportunity to build strength. To acknowledge when you do this, to repent, and then to hold yourself up, not to step back
But
again.
you know what is scary? Because we are going through these things, acknowledging what's happening, what the word is. Whereas some people, not knowing, they think they're okay just because they've prayed a prayer, So, yeah, it's a little bit here and there, a little bit of trouble there, but they missing this.
All you need is the foundation of love. That's it. That's all you need. Do everything out of a foundation of love. Everything's going to be fine.
Okay, who can read on the screen? Who can read Revelation for us?
What was that?
Can someone read that? Because I'll mess it up if I read it.
The first one?
Yeah, just Revelation 1 was 14 verse 6 to 11.
Can you read that, Carl?
I saw another angel flying overhead with the everlasting good news to spread to those who live on earth, to every nation, tribe, language and people. The angel said in a loud voice, "Fear Yahweh and give him glory, because the time has come for him to judge. Worship the one who made heavens and earth, the sea and springs." Another angel, a second one, followed him and said, "Fallen, Babylon the Great has fallen. She has made all the nations drink the wine of her passionate sexual sins." And then another angel, a third one, followed them and said in a loud voice, "Whoever worships the beasts or its statue, whoever is branded on his forehead or his hand, will drink the wine of Yahweh's fury, which has been poured unmixed into the cup of Yahweh's anger. Then he will be tortured by fiery brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb. The smoke from their torture will go up forever and ever. There will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast or its statue, or for anyone branded with its name. Do you remember anything to say?
So that's it. So this is the one that threw me a bit.
I read that last night too,
Yeah.
because we're looking at the song, Moses' song, and then the song of the Lamb.
Yeah, because when I read this, I saw that the Lamb and the angels, in his presence, people will be tortured forever and ever. I know the Lamb is also the king, so he won't have any time to preach the Torah from the mountain because he's busy torturing people. And the other thing is, I thought to myself, how many people are subject to the pressure now who are gladly accepting what's being offered? How many people will not take the mark? Most people will. That's a guarantee. I see it. At work, 60 to 70% already subject. They're not believers. Then there's some believers who do it. So the majority of the people do it. And when the real comes, the same will happen because they've been in this thing. So how many people will stand before the throne of Yahweh that you can't count, that will stand with white robes before the throne of Yahweh? Those who came out of the tribulation and have been saved through the tribulation. If the majority of the people receive the mark and will be tortured forever and ever, there's a contradictory there. I can't make sense of it. So then I had to look, because this context is Babylon has fallen. It's the end of the tribulation. It's in the context of the last bowls that were poured out. And this is the final judgment that's been spoken out before entering the seventh millennium, which I think the seventh millennium is a hint there. Talks about the fury and the wine, the drink of the wine of the fury of Yahweh. Wine press, yes, fury of Yahweh, wine press. So will they be tortured day and night during the seventh millennium? Or what's the go? So now look at the word for brimstone, which is theon at the bottom. That means divine incense, because burning brimstone was regarded as having power to purify and to ward off disease. So what's the purpose of brimstone?
To purify.
It's incense, that's the presence of the Lamb and the holy angels. The purpose of that is to ward off diseases and the power to purify. It's not there to torture and destroy.
My goodness.
This is the plain basic Greek dictionary.
My goodness.
On the surface. Listen to torture. Pasanismos, that means testing by torchstone, which is a black touchstone, which is a black siliconous stone like jasper, used to test and purify of gold and silver by the color of the streak produced by rubbing it with either metal. So the gold.
By rubbing it with.
No, I use my own Philip language there.
Yeah, that's a nice
So
sentence.
brimstone comes from the word theos. That means divine, Godhead, and godly. And we know that Yahweh is a consuming fire that links to His holiness, His presence. So brimstone's got the wrong context. We think about hell, dark, sulfur, low light, heat, people screaming. We don't think about the tabernacle coals, incense, healing, purification. And then torture is when you are a goldsmith, you purify the gold, then you strike it against this stone to test whether it's pure or whether you need to refine it again. So the smoke of their torture that go up forever and ever is up to the point of their perfect purification, and then it will no longer go up. But collectively, there might be people who are not purified as quickly as others, and their purification process will continue because Yahweh is in the business of repurposing something of value to make it more valuable, and He will not stop until everything is refined and perfected.
So the weeping and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth is the remorse,
Yes,
and
repentance.
shame,
Yeah,
and the separation that they feel from from people who are at the marriage supper of the Lamb.
and the loss.
They're not
They
there.
missed out.
They missed out. They got it wrong.
Yeah, it's remorse, and there will be pain involved. If you go through a troubled time, what you guys go through, it's not nice. It's painful.
Yeah.
You're getting refined by it. So this 3.5 years is a refining process. There will be people coming to faith. Those who haven't come to faith, they will be going into the wine press, where that cycle will continue of refinement. If they're not coming to faith then the 8th millennium will start, and that refining process will continue. We'll read about that in Revelation. In the city, we get the people who enter in, access to a tree of life. But on the outside are the other people. 8th millennium, after the smoke cleared. And those on the outside have to go up and celebrate the Feast of Sukkot year after year. Otherwise, there will be a curse coming upon them. What curse? They haven't repented. The refining process curse will come upon them. That Yahweh's hand is removed. And then the refining continues in the next cycle.
Yes, but every knee bowing and every tongue confessing happens on 3 levels: in heaven, on earth, and under the earth. And I also see in Revelation that hell and everything else is thrown into the lake of fire.
Yes.
With those who are burning forever and ever. I believe that God, there are two bowls of wrath, 2 cups of wrath. One that was taken by Yeshua on the cross for us. Father, I don't want to take this cup, but if it's your will, I will do this. The other cup of wrath is God's judgment that lasts forever.
Let's read who's going to be chucked into the lake of fire. I've got the verse here, Revelation 20 verse 10. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. They said not mention of people there.
No.
But then you look at the great white throne judgment, and we have people added into that.
What do you mean?
Where's that passage? Revelation 20, I think. Because there are 2 judgments, right? There's the judgment seat of Christ, and then 1,000 years later, there is a great white throne judgment. Yeah?
But the great white throne judgment are those who came to faith. They passed. To judge means you make it or you didn't make it. If you make it, you stand in front of the throne. Those who don't make it, you go through a refining process.
Yeah, I think it's forever and ever. But
well, what I read here, fire, brimstone, torment forever and ever, is in the presence, the incense, forever and ever, of the Lamb. If you switch on the light in the presence of darkness, what will happen?
Like the darkness.
The darkness will disappear. If they are in the presence of the Lamb and there's darkness in them, what will happen? Read about it in Luke. It said, you will be saved, but through fire. Everything that's not of him, stubble, wood, and whatever, will be consumed, but you will be saved, but through fire. So everything that's not of him will be removed. That's a refining process of the goldsmith. Whatever is left that's still pure will stand, and that's where this thing comes in. There will be people who are called great in the kingdom, people who are be least in the kingdom.
There might be people in the end, you know.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, I'm not discounting that there won't be people, but the motive of the Father is for every knee to bow, every tongue to confess, and he's doing everything in his power through multiple cleansing processes for everyone to be refined.
And then in the end, if there are still those who choose not to
by all
follow,
means.
they will definitely be with.
Although it does say every name.
I think our refining time is at 3.5 years leading up to Messiah coming back. I believe at the end of the 1,000 years we see that Satan is released, and then there's a great army march on Gog and Magog. Gog march on Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Which is the second war of Gog.
Yes.
Then there is judgment.
Yes.
Satan is thrown into the bottomless pit with the false prophet and Antichrist who were alive, who were thrown into the first judgment.
100%. And those inside the city, where are they?
They're inside the city. They're inside Christ.
No, the city hasn't come down yet. I'm talking about the 7th millennium. There's a city. And those will come and make war against those inside the city. Then the fire will come down and consume those who surround the city.
Yes.
At the time where Satan will be released. There are people inside the city who are not outside of the city, who are not destroyed by Yahweh's fire.
That's right. They're the bride.
No, they're not. The bride has been gathered prior, at the end of the Great Tribulation. Now they are appointed as judges and the army of Yahweh to help the people to come to faith. As they did through the Great Tribulation, so they will do through the 1,000-year process as well. Why do you think they will build a city in Jerusalem? Where will they get the information from? Who will tell them to do so? There's no Torah, there's nothing. Where will they get the idea? We need to go to that spot there. We need to grab plans. I think I heard about a city temple. Let's try and find it. I know everything burnt.
Yes.
Maybe we can dig in this pile. We'll find something. Now Yahweh will send his people, and it said they will rule 1,000 years over the nations. Who will rule? The bride, the judges.
I agree.
Over the 1,000 years, they have been transformed prior to the 7th millennium with glorified bodies. They can translate from the spiritual into this physical and back, like Philip. And they are the ones who rule the nations, who lead the nations, and then the second separation will come. Why do you think Satan is bound for 1,000 years? It's not because Yahweh thought it's a good idea. It's for extended grace for those who are on the earth, who came out of the Great Tribulation, to give them another opportunity to repent in the absence of the serpent. Will they listen to me now? And then he sent his people in, the people who rule for 1,000 years over the nations, and then they will start to build the temple and all that. But there's a separation yet again, and we saw that in previous Torah portions. And then they will be gathered from the four corners of the earth and come and make war. Yahweh actually brought them in to do that at the point when Satan was released. And then they will try and attack the people inside, and Yahweh will come and devour them. Yes. And those on the inside will enter, and they will enter the city and have access to a tree of life. And then there will be those on the outside in the 8th millennium, those who are still left, who haven't been transformed. So it's about the fallen state and the transformed state. The bride is transformed and gathered at the point of the end of the Great Tribulation, where the first judgment is, and we're going to read about it. It's called the first harvest, where it says the grapes or the fruit are overripe. Send the sickle in, gather. End of tribulation, that's the bride. Then the second reaping will happen, and that is the henchmen that will be cast into the lake. Then the third angel will come, the reaping will happen, that's the grapes, and they will go into the winepress. And they will be refined and squeezed. Now I'm going to go to the next thing in a moment. Now it says that the blood will go up to a level of 1,600 stadia.
Up to the horse's bridle.
Yeah.
So I had a look at 1,600, the Kamache of that, and there's only one word, surprisingly. That is Kirjath Yeran or Yerim. That means the city of forests. Which is a very interesting concept. What is a city of forests?
I said Cocos Island.
It's a city built with whatever you can find in the forest. Because everything has been destroyed. There's nothing left. There's desolation. The people that step into the 7th millennium, they find themselves in the wilderness. They grab everything they can and they build. And that's what this is about. And then we see...
Is that Sukkot?
You're onto something, mate. We're going to get to it now. So where this word is found is in Joshua 9 verse 17, which is in the context of the battle of the kings of the earth. And there were 4 cities that Israel peacefully took over because those people surrendered and became the slaves of Israel. Bondwomen. So they came to faith during the 7th millennium under the rulership of Yeshua and his bride ruling over the nations over the time period of the city of forests, the people that's been scattered. And they will go through their refinement process, and many of them will come to faith as a result of that. So you jump onto that next one, which is my last slide. So looking at the pattern, I'm just going to jump to the last one, which got the picture there. I mentioned that Shavuot connects first fruits right through to Yom Teruah. It's a process. So what if Sukkot, which is a 7-day feast, connects to the 7th millennium? And the 8th great day is the 8th millennium. That's not a new concept. We talked about this in Hanukkah. And the wrath of the grapes being crushed and pressed is called the wine press. For what purpose? Why do you press grapes? You want to produce wine. What wine will be needed when this New Jerusalem comes down? If we follow the cycle, we go through the 7th millennium, and then we enter the 8th millennium, and within the 8th millennium there will be a first Passover.
Yeshua said he will get
The 4th cup, where Yeshua said, I will not drink this cup with you unless we're in the kingdom. That's the 8th day, the 8th millennium, and the wine in his cup comes from the wine press.
People that repented.
As well as those who lost their lives and all that.
Wow.
So could that, going back a step to the 7th millennium,
This one to last.
okay, is Sukkot every year a rehearsal for the marriage supper of the Lamb?
The 7th, or Sukkot, is the only feast that's mentioned in Zechariah 14, not the others.
Yes, verse 16.
Zechariah 14 plays off in the 7th millennium. And I believe that the picture, prophetic picture of the 7th millennium is 1,000-year Sukkot, where people will be in cities of forest, they will dwell in tents, they will migrate, do whatever they need to do.
And he will tabernacle.
And they will tabernacle and slowly migrate to Jerusalem under the leadership of Joshua and his bride. And they will build the city, and then Yahweh will say, those who have separated from you, come and make war, and I will show my glory. And then Gog and Magog happens. And then those who came to faith under the leadership of the bride and Yeshua, they will enter in And then the 8th millennium will start, and they will be part of what's in the cup that came to faith during the 7th millennium.
You know, when you look at it, the word Sukkot, what does Sukkot actually mean? Sukkot.
Tents.
Tents, yeah. City of
It's a
forest.
time of tents. There's nothing. Everything is desolate.
Tent dwelling.
Yeah.
You know, Philip, I don't want to justify anything, but just now things are being revealed, and I was saying the errors that have been written by the forefathers of doctrine through the millennia of time have changed words, especially on the New Testament. Thousands of little things that have been changed, not so much with the Torah, but with the New Testament. And Catholicism wrote in certain things that would make you believe that there was an eternal judgment to control because
Through
of
fear.
finances and fear, because they could redeem finances from people by buying your way out of purgatory.
Yes.
Yes.
So we've got to be very, very careful that we are not reading something that has been written by these,
Brainwashed by it.
or brainwashed by these dudes who were very clever at that time.
Well, if you just look at the Greek now, we see the opposite.
Exactly.
And that sermon from Grant,
Yeah.
what's it called?
Yeah, Grant Newton.
Savior of all.
Yeah, it's called
I think something God.
Yeshua, our Redeemer,
Savior.
Savior of all.
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah,
same
we
thing?
did a study on the word hell and Sheol and all those things. And he just brought it into context of what it actually means, and it aligns with this.
That's right. And we have when you're talking about that, we have an opportunity to fall on the rock, or let the rock fall on you.
Yes,
It's
that's
the
right.
same.
It's-
It's the same.
Yeah.
And it made me think, what you're saying makes so much sense, because you know how it says, he's faithful. Once he's begun a good work and he's faithful to complete it. And I thought, well, I know my parents got saved right at the end of their life, but
my
they
dad
didn't really, surely that wasn't the complete work. You know what I mean? I thought of that scripture, but it makes sense. It continues, and that refinement continues. That's how the work is completed. You know, just naturally you think, I look at me and I think, we're nearly at the end, and surely this is not the completed work.
There's still a lot to.
So I just want to put this back into context, what I previously said. I believe the majority of the people in this world will take the mark of the beast. Guaranteed. If you read Revelation, where there's a great multitude standing before the white throne that's been saved, contradiction there. When you think about there's torment and torture in the presence of the Lamb, which actually means refinement of the goldsmith, in context of Yeshua reigning with his bride for 1,000 years over the nations in his presence, for healing and purification makes perfect sense. Being in hell tormented and him spending time in hell forever and ever tormenting people, that doesn't make sense.
Fit with grace.
Doesn't make sense. Just for his role. His role is not to torture, his role is to purify, to heal, to refine, and that's also the job of the Torah.
You know,
He's a goldsmith. He's not a guard at a prison where they just torture people because they've been bad.
you know, the whole concept of hell and burning forever, and it's never. I've accepted it, but it's never.
Well, for myself.
I've always been looking for a way, because it didn't fit with my understanding of God
Loving
and
God.
everything else. I'm thinking, you know, I just.
For myself, I could not understand how can Yahweh create a being just to be tortured.
Yes.
That doesn't seem like a God that I want to serve. You know, it's got nothing to do with me. I mean, he can do what he wants, but
There must be justice.
Yes.
And there will
There
be.
must be justice, and there will be justice, and there'll be a wailing and gnashing of teeth, and there will be people who will be subjected to what they subjected others to. Right?
And there might be people who are so stubborn who will stay there forever and ever. I don't know.
Yeah,
But Yahweh's intent is
makes
to
far more.
Yeah.
purify them.
Yeah.
That's his motive.
I remember, spoke at my sister's funeral, and she was her whole life an atheist, professed atheist, along with her husband and her son and half of our family, our collective family. And as I just could not. It just didn't enter my mind that she would be subjected, because my sister was fundamentally a good person, in all sorts of ways. Not a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination, but my sister was a good person. And at the time, I could not reconcile it. I believe that God gave me, an assurance that she was okay.
It was going to be okay.
She's definitely going
Yeah.
to be okay.
Now it makes sense. I understand it, and
I honestly believe in my heart that, it says to be separated from God. Now, nobody has seen God, or any of us. But I think that day that you're now being judged by this awesome, great God, and then know what you've missed, that will be hell.
Yes. Yes.
That will torment the life out of you to know that I've got to go down the mountain the second time. That will be hard, and it will burn a person. That will torment you.
You only have to look back at your life when you used to live in Egypt.
Yes.
For me.
Yeah.
And I think, how could I have thought like that? I can't imagine you have such regret. I mean, it's wonderful that we,
Hey, you even punish yourself sometimes based on what you've done in the past.
Exactly.
You go through that internal punishment that you do to yourself.
That's right. And that's what the word reveals it to you.
For myself, Tony, before I came to faith, I shared this with Philip. I mean, I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. For myself, I said to Philip, every day was like, do I have to do this again? It was such a torture for me to be alive. I mean, I did everything I wanted to because I could. I didn't believe that I would go to hell, but it was torture, just living, wake up, and then you go to a nightclub and you drink and you get drunk and wake up, and later tonight, I can't wait to do that again. And then again tomorrow you're torturous. I mean, it's weird. And then after I came to faith, not following Torah, it wasn't different. I still woke up and think, really? No, do I have to do this again? It's only when we found Torah and my life really changed.
Righteousness, and then you see yourself.
That's
the mirror.
Yes, the Torah is the mirror.
And that's the
Philip, Paul made an incredible statement. He said, who will deliver me from this body of flesh?
Yes.
The things I want to do, I find I cannot do. The things I don't want to do, I find I am doing. But notice the body of flesh. These guys, when they've got to go back, they've got that body of flesh.
Yeah, that's all that's burning.
That's going to be hard.
Yeah, that's the brimstone.
Because remember, you can have a glorified body.
Yeah.
And what I also want to say, which I haven't said, I believe the last bowls will be poured out during the 7th millennium. So there will be plagues as well. It's not going to be, we're just wondering when we're just picking up sticks and trying to build stuff. There's going to be things happening there as well.
For this process to occur.
Yeah.
That's why the leaves and what they for the tree of life are for the healing of the nation.
And it says there, those who receive the mark, and I believe they will be in the 7th millennium, will get sores and things that will come upon them. It's a leprous state.
Yeah.
Your flesh will torture you because of the plagues and the consequence of the things you've allowed during this life. Because you haven't chosen life.
Excuse me, Philip. Can I share
You're
a
welcome.
Bible passage?
Yes.
A couple of Bible passages. Isaiah 27, 12 and 13. On the day of the Lord will thresh from the flowing stream of the Euphrates River to the brook of Egypt, and you will be gathered up one by one, the sons of Israel. It will come about also on that day of the great shofar will be blown, and all those who are perishing in the land of Assyria and will be scattered. The land of Egypt will come to worship the Lord on his holy mountain in Jerusalem. The resurrection is not just vertical, it's horizontal.
Yeah, and that's what harmonized with Zechariah 14. Year after year, you will go up to worship the King during the Feast of Sukkot.
Yep. Yep. But I think, in my mind, it harmonises, and this is a different view, it harmonises with the gathering in Matthew 24.
Yeah.
Maybe different concepts, but yeah.
It's of the same pattern, timing-wise. The way I interpret these things are based on the previous patterns that I found in the Torah. That's why I struggle to accept things within a Greek writing that's contradictory to the foundational things that I see. And I was actually very surprised to find the real meaning of those words, which I would have never have looked at if I still had that doctrine in my mind.
But why is it not widely understood now? We've had years and years of people studying ancient Greek to get an understanding, but why is
I think it's unforgiveness. If someone does wrong to me, if I'm a Christian, I will say, wait, Yahweh will smite you, you will burn. And that will make me, back off and be happy because judgment's coming your way, which is the wrong thing. Yeshua said, if someone slap you, you turn the other cheek. If someone asks you to carry you carry it further. It's not about revenge and wishing evil things to come upon people. If you thrive in it that people will burn forever and ever, what's wrong with you? You've got the wrong heart. That's not the heart of the Father. He's loving and kind. Why don't you pray for them? There's still a chance. Don't you wish that upon them, and you're glad it's going to happen. It's wrong.
It's a doctrine we were brought up in.
Now, we were brought up angry,
You don't
and I came to faith because Yahweh was angry, and He's going to smite me if I'm not, repenting.
And why would he turn around and say, if a man smites you on the cheek, turn the other cheek? If you want to walk a mile, walk 2 miles with him.
Well,
today.
he doesn't do that himself.
in the readings today? If your enemy's thirsty, give him a drink. If your enemy's hungry, give him food. I mean, that's how we come to the modern way you're supposed to deal with a prisoner of war. It's because of that expressed value, attitude in the Word of God.
I could have not here, but I was, the thing we brought up before about the grapes and the connection with the Passover and the being up to the bridle of the horses. I'd be really interested to look at the because why the horse's bridle? Have you ever thought of it?
Yeah, that's always
Why did he pick that out? There must be something in it, because you'd give you'd say, you'd use a measurement like
up to your shoulders.
Yes, or a measurement. What do you call the measurements? what's the measurement they use in the Bible?
Yeah, or meters or
Yes,
whatever.
exactly, yeah.
Cubits.
Cubits,
or-
yeah. Why not cubit? Why up to the horse's stride?
Right.
There has to be
Something
something in the
asking
horse's
now, we can look
bridle.
at that. Now we can.
It just might have some
Insight,
clue
yeah.
into what the wine is used, what the grape juice is for.
Have you looked at why the bridles of the horses?
The horse's bridle is a funny thing to measure the grapes juice in.
Yeah.
So I was saying, is there something
In
in the horse's bridle?
Well, it's all Greek to me.
But see if you
Oh,
can
yeah,
find
that's-
something.
There's nothing Hebrew.
But there's something else that you consider.
Mm.
Everybody's talking technology, thermonuclear, this and that. Then why does the Bible specifically say that they will come against Israel? They'll have breastplates, they'll have horses, they'll have spears and shields, and that weaponry of swords and shields will be burnt for 7 years. If that's the case, where the tanks, where the armored cars, where's the helicopters? There's none of that. It just specifically talks about horses and the bridle of horses. That's always puzzled me. And you know what? Russia, all those, countries of the northern countries, all are horseback riders, all are arrow shooters. And you remember when Alexander the Great came? He came on horseback. Why? Is there going to be a breakdown in technology?
Well, that's a possibility.
There's another
An
thing.
electromagnetic pulse caused either by a nuclear explosion
Yes.
or
There's
a
also-
solar flare. Apparently, there's a solar flare on the way.
And in that TV series of
Yeah.
what you told me about Sweet Tooth, he specifically mentions, and after they shut down the internet, everything went to chaos.
Yeah, because everything is controlled by the internet. Everything. Water pumps, electricity, traffic lights, point of sale, banking. Switch that one off, everything stops.
Even your transport, your cars.
And that talks about, talk to the animals, tell them, here's a feast for you guys.
Yes.
An animal can't eat a tank. But it says horses, the flesh of horses, kings, noblemen, rich men, generals, and even the guy that's just pulling the stuff along. It talks
There's,
about their flesh.
Israel is told over and over not to trust in horses and not to go down to Egypt for horses. And the whole of the Middle East are into horses. The
Unless
pride
it's-
is in the.
There is the whole thing of it being symbolic because they didn't have any concept of what a tank or a
Yeah, could be that too.
All the weapons are in
Well, that's-
Afghanistan, guys.
Well, I suppose if the
Yeah, I know.
if the grapes of wrath are up to the horses' bridles, it means the thing they trusted in, that thing is swimming in.
So there's two things that I could find here in the Greek. The verse that's connected to bridle is to control where the horse will go. So it's controlling. And the root word for that bridle means to go down. Like a boat is sinking, quicksand, to go down into quicksand, or to let down, a basket, or to release. So to release the control has to do with the bridle of the horse. If you think about the horse, the pale horse that's running, who is the horse? Have you ever thought about that? We always think about the rider. Who's the horse? Who is being ridden? Who has been enslaved and controlled? That's now pale. Who is controlled and enslaved? That's now black. That's got scales. Who's now controlled? Who's a red horse? That's entrenched into conflict and warfare. It's the people. that's being controlled. And the people are being brought down by the control. So the tramping of the winepress is to release the control that's on the people.
The horse's bridle. Oh,
Yeah. And it's the horses that trample the grapes. So it's the control of the powers to be that cause the plagues and the things to happen.
So to bring it down. It's not
To bring it
it's
down.
up, the wine is not up there. It's
Yeah.
Thrown into the sea.
Ah,
That's
that's
in the Moses. Yeah, well, that's another thing.
the horse and the rider.
Okay. Right. Any more comments or insights? It's a lot.
There's a lot.
Well, I just feel so rich,
Yeah.
full. It's been a feast today.
For
Not that it
ourselves.
is.
Yes.
We've had abundant feast food before, but this feels like.
Yeah. Because we're fasting.
yes.
Well, we needed the
Yes.
spiritual food because we didn't get the physical.
Very
So we
rich. Double
full.
portion.
Yeah, we're more open to receive now because
We're not full.
the
and
flesh is
empty.
not in the way.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah, that's right. In the in Revelation, we were reading last night. I can't remember the song. It seemed like the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb. And just to let you know, we're just discussing it. It seemed like you needed to be having both songs, not just one or the other. There's something written in there that it was interesting, but I can't remember.
Yeah. So what it means is the song of Moses. That's the words that you sing. The song of the Lamb is the melody or the emotion
Sweetness.
that's coming from the heart. The words come from the mind. And when you combine the two, you get a beautiful song.
So it's the harp, the instrument.
The instrument,
so
the harmony.
It's shaped like a harp.
Because they played harps.
Yeah.
That's the Lamb. And the harp is also linked to David. David sang this beautiful psalms that portrayed the Messiah.
And
Who is the Lamb.
Canary at the center of the land is
Shaped like a
the
harp.
heart-shaped
Yeah.
lake.
Yes. And if you sing the song of Moses on the same tone, if you're tone deaf, that will be bad to listen to. But if you have a beautiful melody that carry those words, it brings life. And that moves the spirit.
well, that goes for the letter of the word and the spirit of the
Yeah,
word.
let in the spirit. It's the song of the Lamb is the spirit.
You have to
It's
put
the
it together
life.
if you have only one or the other.
Oh, of course.
You know, it's
Yeah, it's
interesting
the word and the
fact
spirit,
that
of course.
that
It's the
song
word and the spirit.
literally
Song of
laid
Moses,
out
Song
for
of the
Israel
Lamb.
what was going to happen to them after they had crossed over. Every little detail of what that song was about took place after they crossed over that Jordan. Well, after Joshua, you could say that everything went to pieces as he predicted in that song.
So imagine now that what you just said there in relation to where do they sing the song in Revelation? After the Great Tribulation. They're singing what is going to happen in the next 1,000 years.
It was interesting, eh? Yes, one doesn't realize how significant the Old Testament scriptures are and what took place there. Like, you know, it's a roadmap. It's a literal roadmap for people. Without that roadmap, you're lost.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, isn't it amazing? I don't know if I'm thinking wrong. Just listening again about Yahweh's grace, that even through the millennium, or it will continue the refining and for his children. That Satan hates us so much. That's why he's trying to destroy the human in us. Because he knows God's grace is just so great. He's giving
And if we
everybody a
know
chance.
that, if we know and realize that, he's lost.
He's lost the
Mm.
battle. He
Yeah.
has actually lost.
Now, if you think about the time when Satan is bound, who will take control? Who will take his seat? Who will take over? It's the ego.
Yeah, people.
The self.
I don't know which rabbi mentioned that. I heard that somewhere. They say that the ego is similar to what Satan is.
Oh, yeah, that's
And the ego is what controls the flesh.
Mm.
And Satan, from a spiritual point of view, control multiple people and their flesh. So if Satan is bound, the ego will stand up. Now, if you haven't watched the movie The Postman, good movie to watch with Kevin Costner, to see what the world will be like when there's no government system. What will happen?
the ego.
A copy salesman, a photocopy salesman, will stand up because of his ego and become a dictator that will kill and slaughter people because he now is the authority. It's the worst thing if there's no government system. When people are let loose and do whatever they want. And I can speak of experience. At work, we took out the management structure, and guess what happened? People think that they're the boss, every single person. It's chaos. Currently, we've got 4 teams that's falling apart. People are resigning because of that.
Because there's no.
If one take charge, the others in his team will be upset. Some will leave. If he's arrogant and stubborn and rebellious, he will stick to his guns and stay in power. It's a natural pecking order that happens because there's no more governing framework and structure that look after everything. The other company that I'm involved in, that I'm trying to help out with, I describe them as a bunch of hyenas where there's a piece of raw meat being thrown in the middle of the room. They're fighting over it. You can't believe how chaotic that is. No rules. Nothing.
So either you're under Yahweh's government.
And that's the stress that I'm having at work,
That's what it's going to
because
be.
it's my job to implement this system of chaos, and I'm failing.
That sort of maybe a little bit off the track, but it sort of fits in my mind. When we were in the UAE, there was sort of, I don't know whether it's a myth, but it sounds like something they would do there. They said there is a top security prison in the UAE in the middle of the desert. I mean, you know, there's a place they call the Empty Quarter. So it's between the UAE and it goes right across Saudi Arabia. That's nothing. It's the most desolate place one of the most desolate places on the planet. That they have a prison in the middle of the desert. It's located so far away that no one could survive if they escaped. And all they do is drop prisoners in. That's all. Food.
And they manage themselves.
They have to manage themselves.
There's no guards.
Can you
There's no guards,
imagine?
there's nowhere to go, and the food comes to that spot, every now and again, so they have to stay there or
Or
There's
die.
no way out. There's no way out. They will
Can you
die.
imagine the chaos?
So it's a prison.
So that's the 7th millennium for you.
Well, all you just got to do is look at your history and look at Stalin, Gorbachev, all these guys that a little guy comes up in our, what's the name here, just our little, down south here. As soon as the guy gets a little bit of power, his muscles come out, his hair comes up, and now he's walking around with a big stick and he's beating people's ego.
It's
Power.
the government, because the government, as we've known it in Australia, has lost,
Yeah,
and so you
pull back
you get even
and allow the
people-
people to take
Yes,
power. Now
even
this
in
goes.
even in your supermarkets, you get the woman behind the counters, and everywhere you've got this thing happening. that you
And now
talk
it's
about.
depending on the morality of and the kindness of that person, how they're going to react. And we speak to this person, they're rude and they can do what they want. The other one is gentle and kind. They're better. So, yeah, it's not
What's
consistent.
happening? It's bringing it out in the open, isn't it? It's
Yeah, a lot of people are held in check because of the management structure.
Mm.
They know they can't get out of line because they're accountable to someone else.
Yeah.
But if there's no
management.
There's no one to be accountable to. It's like us with God. There's
Yeah,
no one to
we're
be accountable
godless.
to.
So that's why we run the race we do. We destroy one another because we can.
Is that the what they call the Yetzirah?
Yetzirah, yeah.
So that's what will rise up in Satan's going.
See, national cabinet is a step back from governance, a step towards socialism and communism.
That's the word, yeah.
Yep.
And that's chaos.
The local collective.
Well, I disband that.
If you haven't read it, please get hold of Mao, the Untold Story. Mao, the Untold. I think it's Untold Story. Check it out. It documents the whole of Mao's history from the beginning to
Who's Mao?
Mao Zedong.
You know, Chairman Mao in China, the one that brought in communism.
Oh, yeah.
And destroyed the country and the people.
The horrors
Good
of
insight
that
into
regime.
how
Terrible.
Unbelievable. The amount of death brought about by that man's rule is unbelievable. So that's the counter to, yes, we do need a management, but what he did is he unleashed all these little petty dictators in every part of the country, and they rose up.
Funny that I was looking at the precepts of Marxism the other day, and we're going down that path very quickly. I'll never say that word.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
I think I just want to close and then we can continue our conversation. Anyone want to close in prayer for us?
Yes, I will. Father, I just feel so well fed today. And it reinforces what a strong and a sure foundation we have in you. And Lord, that you've embedded within your word so much evidence of your ability to deal with every situation that we're facing. Your ability to deal with our shortcomings, our limitations, and to bring us to a place where we have complete and utter confidence in you. Lord, I don't think we're there yet. And in some ways I dread what is going to be required to get us to that place. But you are showing us through your word the way that we need to go. And we thank you for that. Just pray that input into our lives now will become a foundation for future thinking, for future emotional foundation, and for action in our lives. And we thank you, Father, for that.
You know, when you take what we've just been talking about, when you take the millennium,